Hello and welcome to the first edition of the HbbTV webinar series after the holiday break. We hope you've had a great summertime and now we're ready for some more action regarding HbbTV. And we're starting this new season with a great and very important topic as well. It's about accessibility solutions with HbbTV. I think it's great and important for those people that are already familiar with the issue, and as well for those who aren't yet and want to know more about it. And so we have got great experts for you who are going to tell you a lot about their experiences and a lot about what can be done with HbbTV regarding accessibility solutions, making it easier to access services, for example, the EPG and so on, to navigate. And we'll hear all about this from Olivia May, who's head of product development at Freeview Play in the UK. Klaus Merkel, I don't really have to introduce him, an expert in HbbTV, one of the founders who started the standard about 10 years ago. He's now senior engineer distribution at RBB. That's the regional ARD affiliate serving Berlin and Potsdam over here in Germany. And number 3 is Nigel Moore, who's Senior Manager TV Engineering at Sony Europe in the UK. And we'll hear more from him on what's possible with HbbTV regarding accessibility. As usual, please enter your questions during the presentations through the chat box. And we will have a 15-minute Q&A session live. This is live for you after the presentations are finished. And also remember, in case you have friends and colleagues who might be interested in a topic and can't watch this live, there'll be a YouTube recording available immediately after the live session on the HbbTV Association's website. And also the presentations will be made available for download on hbbtv.org. That's the website. And as usual, the disclaimer before we start with the presentations represent the views of the presenter and the companies he or she represents, and not necessarily the views of the HbbTV Association. Let's start with you, Olivia. Welcome, and we're very interested in your insights.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Is that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Apologies, there we are. So my name is Olivia May and I'm Head of Product Development at Digital UK. I know many of you will be familiar with that organisation, but just in case for some of our European cousins you're not as familiar with it, let me tell you a little bit about it. We are a company that leads the strategic development of the Freeview hybrid digital TV platform and manages its operations. So we work across the whole horizontal market with world-leading commercial partners. We're the #1 platform in the UK, and that represents about 13 million Freeview Play devices. Oops, has that just... Can you see my screen?
Yeah, Digital UK in the UK TV market is the slide.
Okay, sorry, I cannot not see my screen. There we go. So that's about 30,000 hours of TV from our content providers, which include the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, and many others like UK TV and CBS, etc. We also partner with 19 of the top 20 brands in the UK. So large organisations like LG, Vestel, Sony, to name but a few. So we have breadth and stretch across the entire of the market, which places us in a unique position to drive forward initiatives like this and support them on a mass scale. Has that moved on?
No.
Oh, there we are. Right. So
yeah.
The situation at the moment is that we're in very exciting times in the development of user experience. We have very rich imagery and vast selections of content for people to explore, which of course, with all the excitement of that, can be dizzying for many people who are trying to access these services. Within the UK, there are 2 million people who have sight loss and 11 million who have hearing loss. That skews particularly high in our user base because we skew a little bit older. So many of these people find it very difficult to access, to browse and to select content that they enjoy. And so we saw a really acute need to do something about this problem. So while there's never been so much choice or engaging browser journeys, this is definitely a mixed blessing. So what's it like to experience TV with these kind of impairments? Well, there's 3 examples here of how a TV screen could appear to people with visual impairments, and whether they have cataracts or glaucoma. You can see that the screens themselves are very, very difficult to navigate. And then on top of this, of course, people find the complexity of the navigation systems very, very complex as well. They don't know how to get to the shows that they love. And so we're trying to simplify these journeys for them through our development. And so the background to us finding a solution to this very real problem was that, as I've established, we Digital UK are in a unique position across the market to lead some kind of initiative on this. Also, we were bolstered by regulator impetus. So Ofcom in the UK has been extremely supportive of our work and has continued to drive forward really creative solutions for the horizontal market. So notably in 2018, they published accessibility requirements for how people could browse content on the television and what the HbbTV guide should look like and what functionality it should have. It needed to have key usability features such as zoom, text-to-speech, content filtering, high contrast UI, so that people could effectively navigate television independently, regardless of their accessibility needs. The next pillar of how we've been able to develop the solution is, of course, that there's been very strong HbbTV adoption across the industry. And this meant that we had the real opportunity to not just develop something for existing or new devices, but also for the whole existing device space that we have out in the market, which, as I've said, is about 13 million devices. So this was a very, very strong platform to build upon. And we can deploy it at scale across this horizontal market by collaborating with our very tight device partner relationships. So what this led to was the development of the Freeview Play Accessible TV Guide. You can see a screen here, which is the setup screen for how you set it up on initial first-time use and enable you to get to the shows that you like, filtered down to the accessibility versions you might want of audio description, subtitled or sign language. So just a bit more about what the Accessible TV Guide is itself. It's an HbbTV broadcast-related app that's available at channel 555. We picked that number because, as you know, on a remote control button, on the remote control button 5, there's a little raised lump, so blind users can find that button quite easily. And obviously just pressing it several times is a very easy use journey. And that lands you directly in this Accessible TV Guide, which is a list view EPG. The Accessible TV Guide is available on 95% of our connected base. So there's a potential for up to 12 million devices across the UK to access this service. And we're also promoting it more widely on other platforms too, and speaking to other potential partners. The key features of this TV guide are that we've simplified the navigation. So we've deconstructed the EPG. It's not designed to be the same horizontal grid that has lots and lots of content crammed into it. It's simplified into a list view. So you're seeing just the programs on one channel at that time. So it has fewer elements for viewers that have accessibility needs. Also, having that list view means that it's really good for text-to-speech because it can literally go down the list and read it out. Other features of the guide, you can filter by subtitled, audio description assigned or signed, as I mentioned previously. And this guide is permanently zoomed in. So the legibility of it's great. It means that each of the elements, there's no elements on there, or no font sizes on there that are under 36 points. So it's really large, really accessible, very easy to read from 10 feet away. We've also achieved that by doing a high contrast display. So there's a great 7:1 ratio of dark to light on the screen, so things are really, really clear. We don't do things like light grey writing on a lighter grey background. It's very high contrast and very clear. We've also emphasised the focal point with a white key line around it, so that people really know where they are on screen and aren't lost in the navigation. And then lastly, we've also introduced text-to-speech technology to help blind and partially sighted people navigate it. And that was actually one of the most complex elements of the app to develop. So a few of the benefits, as I mentioned, it's rolled out across not just new devices, but old devices as well. And this service is free. It's free to the user at channel 555, and it's also free to the manufacturers. So we provide it to our manufacturers, which meant, of course, the adoption has been far higher, and the manufacturers have appreciated that being able to have this app from us means that they are compliant with Ofcom's requirements on accessibility as well. The app is ready to go. There's no need to install anything, no need to pay for anything, no need to download anything. It's just available at channel 555, which is very convenient for users. And then also, as I mentioned, it's customizable, so you can actually tailor it to your own accessibility needs, which means that it's very pertinent to each particular user. So as a technical overview, it's a broadcast-related app available on internet-connected Freeview Play devices, and it's built against the HbbTV 2.0 spec or 1.3.1, and that means that it's compatible with lots of older devices. So we have devices that can show this guide from 2015 onwards. How it works is the app reads the channel list from the actual device, and that means that the regionality on that device is correct. And then our metadata delivery service, or MDS, delivers all the enhanced metadata around it, including things like access versions and rich metadata and imagery. And then the last element, which was particularly challenging for us, was the introduction of text-to-speech. And text-to-speech is available on the majority, so just over half of the devices that have this app. We have used a cloud-based solution using Google Text-to-Speech to create the audio files. And then obviously we've mapped those audio files to navigational elements or text strings within the screens. And then caching these so that the latency is low, and we can deliver the text-to-speech as quickly as possible. We found in our testing and prototyping that people use text-to-speech extremely fast. So we want to give them the optionality to be very advanced users on this service as well. And then we also give them other customizable features, like they can use a male voice for a female voice based on their preference. So what next for Accessible TV Guide? Well, we've had excellent feedback and excellent support from accessibility groups. This has been tested and prototyped with the DAC and with AbilityNet. We've had great support from RBB and Scope and Action on Hearing Loss, and we're increasingly engaging with Age Concern. So the next step on this is we really, really want to get out there that this Accessible TV Guide is available for free for people to use. So that's part of the reason I'm speaking today, is that we want to get the message out that it's there, it's available for use, and get the word out essentially. And then on the roadmap, other things we'd like to include in the near term, we're very keen to get on-demand browsing included as well, and other things, an introductory demo video we're going to be including as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Olivia. Just a brief message from me. Please don't forget you have the option to submit questions through the chat function for the Q&A session later on. case you want to know anything on the subjects we just discussed or in anything else relating to HbbTV. With Klaus, we've got an expert, and obviously with Olivia and Nigel as well. They are all, or most of you are working in the different working groups, actively contributing to the development of the standard. These are the right people to answer anything you'd like to know on HbbTV. Now it's time to go over to Klaus in Munich, who's going to tell us, give us a few more examples on accessibility solutions and services.
Yes, thank you very much, Jörn, for the introduction. And hello to everybody. So just, sorry. So here we are. So I'm going to give a good number of additional examples of how accessibility services based on HbbTV can be done. If we look at HbbTV, if we really open the specification, then we find a really rich toolbox which allows us to do all sorts of services. It's a growing toolbox, so we are now with the 6th version of the HbbTV core specification, and it doesn't predefine, as it is a toolbox, any concrete type of service, and also it doesn't explicitly deal with accessibility as it is today. So Nigel will give more insights into the future development, but as for today, we have a renderer for EBU-TTD on board this toolbox, but beyond, the specification as such doesn't really cope with accessibility. As a toolbox, it leaves it completely to the service provider to build attractive and useful services, and possibly also build services dealing with accessibility. So for the ALD, a short introduction. So ALD and all these examples I'm going to give are examples from the ALD activities around HbbTV. ALD really provides a rich number of HbbTV services, has started providing so quite a good number of years ago. Currently, we have roughly some 40 different, at least differently looking HbbTV applications all across the ALD services. And HbbTV is the technology with the really by far highest reach on big screens for ALD services. So on big screens, HbbTV really is the #1 for ALD reach. So as you can see from the examples here, so these are examples of our, say, standard HbbTV applications. In both screenshots, you see the broadcast video in background. You see on the upper example, the auto start application, making use of the overlay teasing events in the catch-up TV section, allowing to enter by pressing the red button the launcher bar, which you can see here, and also allowing to do a sort of replay functionality by clicking on the blue button, restarting the current broadcast from the beginning via dash live stream. And you see more teasers and more content and more apps to enter here on the launcher bar. I'm working for RBB. RBB is one of the ALD broadcasters, and the RBB has a specific function and is providing specific services within ALD. It does the auto start application, which is crucial to link all the other HbbTV application. It does the AITs and DSMCC carousel stream events, and also a number of HbbTV services. So far for the introduction, and I'm now starting some, I think it's 8 different examples of how ALD is using HbbTV today to provide accessibility services. And you see, this is a service which is in regular operation. It's an easily readable version of the launcher bar. You have seen the launcher bar already in the slide before. And here you see an additional slide which shows a specific rendering of the launcher bar with all the functionality. But more easily to read using a bigger font, using high contrast UI, and shows the focus much more bold than the other version does. So an easily readable version of the initial launcher bar, providing access to all the additional HbbTV offerings. Another example is a rendering configuration or rendering configurations for subtitling. So AAD is offering a subtitle service using TSMCC stream events and having for the transmission and having the subtitles rendered not by a native renderer as for DVB subtitling or even EBU-TTD, but have the subtitles really rendered via an HbbTV application. And this provides options for adopting the rendering at the user side. And you can see here the user can choose font size, a background of the text, and also the position of the text. And these settings are stored in a cookie, so are always automatically reinitiated if people use subtitling via HbbTV. Something similar but not really identical is options for reading the HbbTV teletext. So this is a dedicated application for all the ARD broadcasters, a new version of the teletext based on HbbTV rendering. And also here you have some accessibility features. You can change here the color schema, which is the big clipping in the middle, and you can select the transparency also. And so foreground the text and background the broadcast image, and also these settings are stored within a cookie. Here something different, so it's a signer service, so from time to time, but every time there is an event of a specific public value, then AAD provides some signer service, and the signer service is transmitted then via an IP stream, as we don't have two independent video decoders in HbbTV available on the devices at least. We have gone for one IP stream which combines the regular linear TV program and the signer picture in one screen, in one video stream. And this can be very easily accessed via the red button. So you have seen the way AAD does teasers. So in a similar way, the availability of such a signer service is announced, and then the user can, if he needs signer services, he can very easily switch from the broadcast, which you can see here on the left-hand side, the most left screenshot, via an intermediate step. In the launcher bar, he can activate the IP video with a signer, which you can see on the right as the right screenshot. Then we also have, I just noticed, so that's the wrong heading. So this is the typical detection of errors while you do the presentation. So this is a screenshot of the HbbTV section where AAD provides audio description versions. And by now, this is done in a very, well, I could say primitive way by having dedicated video versions. So as you can see from the screenshot, for those two crime plays, we have two versions each, and one of each is the version with the audio description. This is certainly a way to provide audio description to the user via HbbTV, but of course it's not the best one, the best option in terms of GUI. And in fact, AAD is currently working on a redesign of the GUI to make that audio description accessible in a better way, in a more appealing way on the GUI. But the functionality is there for quite a time already. This one is a technically rather interesting one. So we are using here a feature of HbbTV2, which allows to sync an IP video to the broadcast, an IP audio, So to sync an IP audio to the broadcast video. And the syncing can be done on both the TV and also a mobile device. And in fact, BR, being one of the ARD broadcasters, is actually using both. So there are enhanced dialogue audio versions via IP, which can be played back on the TV in sync with the broadcast video. And we have a version where we offer the audio description via a mobile app, also to be consumed with the broadcast video for individual use. So we have audio description on broadcast anyhow, but if you activate it on the TV in the broadcast, then all people on the couch have to hear the audio description. And if we go for a mobile, for syncing the IP audio on a mobile, then the audio description can be offered for individual use. So we are offering in the end both versions for the enhanced dialogue version and for the audio description version. As this is technically a bit more interesting, I'm showing you here, say, the how it looks at the back end. And it's a bit complicated for ARD because it's one broadcaster to actually generate the program, to have the broadcast automation, and another one to insert the TME timeline. So we need a specific timeline in the broadcast in order to get this going. And I can't explain all the details here, but you can see the orange, say, path is responsible for the timing, and the green one is the alternate way of delivering the audio to both TV set and also the mobile. But in the end, it's working very well and stable. Another example, which is also an interesting one, because we are not using really HbbTV for the feature per se, is using HbbTV to activate enhanced dialogue audio tracks on broadcast. So ARD is beginning to broadcast enhanced audio tracks by somewhere in end of this year or beginning of next year. And the problem is that this is a bit unusual to do. So it's not well established in the broadcast domain. And so there are somehow on some TV sets there are issues that the GUI for these additional broadcast soundtracks are not easy to find. And ARD is going to offer, in addition to the terminal GUIs, a GUI in their HbbTV AutoStart application. And the one I've drawn here is symbolic only, so it will be much nicer in the end. But the idea is that we are using HbbTV APIs, so tools out of the toolbox, to do that, to allow the user to activate those additional broadcast channels. So nothing with HbbTV for the actual feature, so having that in the broadcast, but HbbTV is serving to provide access to that broadcast feature. And the last example is a prototype only of the teletext service of ARD with a voice output. So we are using the web audio API for that for this prototype, and it turned out to work quite well on the devices with a very good performance and good and quick reaction on the navigation. So you can navigate with voice feedback, and then if you have selected a news part, then you get the whole news message read out. So finally, so far for the example, and the final remark is to hint at EBU work done in that area as well. So there is the HbbTV and DVB-I interoperability group within EBU, and they are currently preparing a document called EBU guidelines for delivering of accessibility services using HbbTV. So exactly our topic here. The idea is, of course, to help others to get examples like these or services like these done in practice. It focuses in its first edition on subtitling, on sign language, on audio description, clean audio, so things you have already seen in the examples. The report will give some background, will give some help, then will give decision trees to help people to decide which technical implementation option they would like to go for. This is not public yet. It will be published later in this year. So you can watch out this website for details, or otherwise you can also, after this webinar today, you can just send me an email and I will send you a reminder or send you the URL as soon as this is published. Thank you very much. That's all.
All right, thank you, Klaus, for these insights from the work ARD and especially RBB are doing in Germany, and also interesting to see the EBU activities in this area, underlining the importance of this topic, I would suggest. Nigel, we're now interested in hearing from your side.
Okay, thanks very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about HbbTV 2.04 and the changes that are coming up in the next version of the specification. So that's the main topic, line 2 on this slide, but a little recap on what HbbTV can do already, and then finally I'll talk a little bit about readiness for the European Accessibility Act, but the bulk of it is about the new version of HbbTV. So as we've seen from the great applications from ARD and from Freeview Play, there's an awful lot of accessibility features that can be realized with HbbTV already using the rich toolkit that HbbTV provides. I don't really need to explain anything more on that because that's been well covered already. So what's HbbTV 2.04 going to bring in addition to that, if it's quite good already? So there'll be some new accessibility features, some extras being added. For example, there'll be a new dialogue enhancement feature using the next generation audio codecs. And some of the features are going to make service creation and application authoring easier. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of the new features later. But also there's a new accessibility framework being incorporated and designed. And this is really to form a better bridge and binding between the TV devices and the applications. And that's what I'll talk about next. But first, a brief caveat and disclaimer. HbbTV 2.04 is currently a work in progress. It's being developed at the moment. And whilst the feature set is agreed, it's not 100% guaranteed that everything I describe here will make it into the new specification. But I'm optimistic and hopeful that it will. So the accessibility framework. So the motivation for this was that today's OS TV operating systems are gradually introducing a number of accessibility features, and these can be exploited by the TV's native applications. For example,
Nigel,
on Android
sorry,
TV.
we don't have,
Yes.
we don't see any slides. We can see your presentation.
Not at all.
Yes, the presentation isn't running. We can just see the webcam.
Okay. Do I need to start again?
Share screen. Yeah, there's the screen now. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, let me go back and recap very quickly then.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me start off here. Let me restart here. Okay, so today's tvOSs include a number of accessibility features that can be exploited by TV applications. Also, HbbTV browsers incorporate a number of these features directly. But the other features can be realized by using the HbbTV toolkit. But this is, all of these things are great, but it's not perfect. The features that the tvOSs support and the features that the applications provide is very variable between TV vendors and between application providers. And some of the tvOS features affect the HbbTV environment, but others don't affect the HbbTV environment. And again, this varies across TVs from different vendors, whether it affects HbbTV or not. So it's a bit of a messy situation. Neither party has got good visibility of each other's capabilities. And one of the things is that only very, very limited information about the user settings that the users are actually wanting are shared between the TV and the HbbTV applications. So this results in applications needing to create settings menus to capture the user's needs and intentions. And we saw examples of that earlier. But it's not just that's not just a singular issue, because this results in users having to repeat the same setup once in their TV, but also in every single application that they visit. They're being asked the same questions in similar settings menus every single time, and this could be optimized. So the HbbTV accessibility framework aims to improve and simplify this situation for the user. Another aspect of the accessibility framework is that the TV and the application are going to be able to have some sort of dialogue and to discuss with each other what support the application has, what support the TV has, and come to the best conclusion as to who should be responsible for realizing that for the user. So in this example, the application starts off asking the TV if it has native support for a screen magnification feature and if the user has enabled it. In this particular case, the TV responds back to the application, say that it does have a screen magnifier feature, the user wants it, and it will magnify the HbbTV application that's running. But the application knows, in this case, that it's got a large layout format feature, which would hopefully result in a better end user experience because it's been designed and tailored with that application in mind. It's not a generic solution. So in this particular situation, it asks the TV if it would suppress a screen magnifier feature. Again, in this situation, the TV agrees, and it will now temporarily suppress the TV's screen magnification effect. And then when the application is confident and it knows that the TV won't be doing a screen magnification feature, it can then use its own large layout mode to do this. And that will be a better experience in general than a generic feature. So a little bit about the suppression of the TV feature. So we saw that the app can request that the TV suppresses it. Well, TV may offer some accessibility feature, and it can affect HbbTV. And as I said, generic applications don't necessarily work. Sorry, generic mechanisms don't necessarily work as well as an application specific and dedicated and tailored to that application method. So it can work out who's the best party to take responsibility, but it also prevents a nasty clash where both parties try to address the same problem. So you can imagine a zoomed application plus the TV zooming it would become very, very unmanageable. One caveat on the suppression feature is that the TV may refuse this request, and there's a couple of good reasons for that. And one is that the manufacturer may decide consistency of the feature across the apps is important for their users. Also, the manufacturer may not actually be able to suppress the feature if a TV OS provider doesn't offer a mechanism for them to do this. So, in summary, the purpose of the framework is to enable the apps and the TVs to decide who will take responsibility for realizing a feature on behalf of the user, and it allows rich settings data from the TV settings menu to be available to the applications. And hopefully that means that setting screens within HbbTV applications will no longer be needed. So a little bit about each of the accessibility features now. So on the left-hand side in the table is the list of the accessibility features, and on the right-hand side is what is currently possible in HbbTV. Some of them have got gaps because there's the general case where the HbbTV toolbox can support a lot of these features. So the middle column is showing you the change point. In some cases, there's some new APIs, and for most of them is the ability to do the settings sharing for each of these features. And this is in addition to the framework dialogue that can discuss the capabilities. So I'll go through a couple of these in a little bit of detail, not deep detail, just a quick dip. So subtitles is an obvious and important accessibility feature, and this has been supported in HbbTV from version 1 using DVB subtitles, and TTML subtitles were added in version 2. So version 2.04 will have the additional support for rich subtitle settings from the TV settings menu to be shared with applications. So this will allow for application rendered subtitles to offer things such as various sizes, as we saw in Klaus's examples earlier, different colors and fonts. So different users with different visual impairments will be able to pick settings more suitable for them rather than basic subtitles on and off. But there are some trade-offs and some drawbacks. DVB and TTML subtitles have got extremely good timing accuracy, and application rendered subtitles may have a looser accuracy. Also, subtitles are sometimes multicolored to match particular speakers in a drama program, and this needs to be managed carefully if the user's overridden the settings in the settings menu. But this is something that app providers will need to manage these trade-offs and make some judgment calls. Dialogue enhancement using the next generation audio. This is being added, and there needs to be a mechanism for the user to control the enhancement level that's going to be surfaced to the user. So quite simply, HbbTV is going to add some new APIs that control the levels of this dialogue enhancement. And this is in addition to settings sharing, which is a common feature across all of these. In-vision signing is a special one. So HbbTV 2.04 won't actually have a specific feature for supporting in-vision signing, but it would be very useful for an HbbTV application to know what the user's intention is. So then the application can react in a number of ways to address that. So if the user wants in-vision signing, it could offer more content recommendations with signed content. It could offer signed content by default if a signed variant of that content is available or exists in the content library. Or if there's a VOD catch-up service, when it's launched, it could automatically land in a location specific, which has got exclusively signed content in it, rather than in a general purpose landing page in the app. But it isn't clear if TV vendors would create a setting menu for the feature if it isn't part of the TV's capabilities. It could be seen as an odd thing to have a menu setting for a feature that doesn't exist in your product. But this will be defined by HbbTV, and we will see how the market manages and adopts this feature, because there is some merit and some value to this. Another one is feedback to a user action. So in HbbTV version 2, there was the ability to mix web audio with the main broadcast audio. And the motivation for this was accessibility, so that audio feedback during menu navigation could be realized. So things like audio chirps as you're navigating. And HbbTV 2.04 will extend this feature. So this will be a new API from the application to the TV that could trigger a TV user feedback mechanism. So this could be audio, it could be visual, but it could be haptic options if there's a support mechanism for that in the TV. So API is only going to define an API for this to trigger a TV implemented mechanism, but there's no specific requirement for a TV to implement any of these particular options, but there will be the API that could be used. And of course, apps can query the settings for this feature. One of the other features that came into the HbbTV specification group was a requirement to address easy menu access. So the complexity and difficulty of getting into accessibility menus could be avoided, and there's a rapid way of doing this. When we looked into this, it was noted that this wasn't actually an HbbTV related problem, and it's actually a TV feature. So this is up to TV manufacturers to resolve. But it was noted that HbbTV applications need to be informed if changes are made in TV menus. So the framework was modified to address this point. So now the framework will handle updates to the settings during the application lifetime. The last thing I want to just briefly mention is readiness for the European Accessibility Act. This is coming into force in European territories in June 2025. But the anticipation is that the specification will be complete, ready for parties to meet their obligations under the new requirements. So after the specification is finalised, test suites can be developed, TV implementations can be developed and deployed to the market. And then after that point, services can actively start making use of these tools and start making increasingly accessible services ready in time for June 2025. And that wraps up my explanation of HbbTV 204 accessibility items. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel, for these interesting insights and lots more, looking into the future aspects. Interesting to see developments going. Of course, standard specification that's never finished. This lives, of course, from feedback from the market, and feedback is what we've received from you. A lot of questions, so thanks for being so busy submitting your questions to the speakers. Speakers, please all turn on your webcams. If you like, and then we can jointly go through the questions. As you can see, most of them are in the order of the presentations, with Olivia being addressed first. Olivia, this first question is about the numbers, whether you can say something on the percentage of users using the accessibility version of the guide and the normal guide.
Yes, so the numbers are low for the accessibility guide at the moment. In a large part, that's because we need some publicity around it. We are very, very keen to get the word out, as I hope I've got across. Please use my contact details, which will be available at the end of the presentation, which Jörn will send out later. Please do get in contact. We do want to get the message out, particularly amongst accessibility groups. So at the moment, it's in the sort of low 10,000s. We want it to be much higher than that, but the potential's there. It can be available on up to 13 million connected devices. So there really is the potential there for it to be a hugely mass scale product. We just need people to know about it. Of course, there's publicity on our own website and there's publicity in social media, but we need it wider than that, and we need help getting to those target audiences and older audiences as well.
Yes, and that's why we're doing this webinar, to spread the word, to make people aware of this, and not just the HbbTV developer community and the technicians and everything in IT, but also, of course, please share this webinar, the recording, the slides with the accessibility groups, because these are the people that need to know that these services are available to them. That's what they're there for. And so we hope to be able to get some movement in this direction with this webinar. The next question, do you see any accessibility improvement which could take advantage of HbbTA? That's the specification for targeted advertising, as we know, but not just for this. It can also be used for other ways of synchronizing. This way, it refers to the synchronization of app and TV images and easy switch back and forth between broadband and broadcast. A very technical question. I don't know, Klaus or Nigel, maybe you'd like to respond.
Yes, so for example, for the signer, when switching from broadcast to a signer version, we could make use of this feature, so it would improve the user experience. Yeah.
So it would be possible to incorporate TA for synchronization optimization, let's put it this way. One for Olivia again, does channel number 555, where the accessibility version of the guide, as we've just heard, is on. Does this channel carry only an AIT to launch the broadcast related app, or on channel 555 broadcast in audiovisual content simultaneously? So is this just for like data-based information, or is it actually broadcasting audiovisual content?
It's the former at the moment, but we do want to see what we can do with an introductory video. So so there'll be elements coming later.
Okay. Do you have services or plans to switch to audio described images or subtitled images, Olivia?
I don't know what you mean by audio described images. Do you mean?
Yeah, that's probably somebody describing what can be seen on screen for people who can't see it. But then that's not an image, then that's a sound-based.
I'm a bit confused by that particular thing. But let me talk about something which is related, which will be of interest. And we do have on our roadmap to do on-demand content with accessibility services, but we need support from the content providers in order to do that. So you need the deep link to those particular versions of content in order to link to the audio described version or the signed version. So that's something that we're looking to do on our roadmap as soon as possible.
Okay. There's always plans to improve the services, of course, and that's why the feedback from the target groups, I think, and the organizations is just so important for this. One question for Klaus: can you explain signer service from an end user point of view?
Yes. So so for dedicated, say for big political debates, there are big live shows from time to time in television with political debates, and their ARD is offering a signer version. This is streamed in the internet for desktop browsers and for mobiles, and on the TV you are watching broadcast, and when this political debate starts, you get a pop-up on your HbbTV, so on your TV screen you get a pop-up, and this pop-up is saying you can have a signer available for this program, and if the viewer then presses the red button, he is redirected to an IP stream with a live stream, but not only containing the broadcast, but containing a combination of the broadcast video and the signer overlay. And this answers also the next question. So we don't have really two video streams, we have only one video stream at a time. So initially we have, of course, the broadcast, and then we are switching from the broadcast to one IP stream, which in itself combines the standard broadcast picture plus the signer overlay. So the rendering is done at the back end side, and we don't have two decoders with overlay videos. We don't have such a feature mandatory in HbbTV.
Yeah.
And the last question, so I immediately go for the last question, if it's okay for you, Jörn.
Sure.
No, the answer is no. So for the audio description, we are using the sync features. So the multi-stream sync and inter-device sync, and this is not anyhow related to the targeted advertising. So the targeted advertising is really related to switching from broadcast to broadband, or from broadband to broadband. So a switching between two different videos and audios, and we could use that, for example, for switching into a signer video, which comes via IP only. But for syncing an IP audio to a broadcast video, we can't make any use of the TA specification. But it's anyhow, so this is already in lip sync, so that can't be improved much more, because it's already perfect. And this is a part of HbbTV2 ever since. So we don't need any specific new version to implement that use case.
Yeah, and just for people who are familiar with these specific terms, this sign language is meant gestures for people who you know, for people who can't hear, so you visualize the content. Nigel, a question for you. Negotiation with the TV for controlling native functions sounds to me that this capability is close to one of the features of the HbbTV op app. What is the differences between yours and the op app when this kind of action is achieved?
Okay, there's a couple of ways to answer this. One is that this feature is useful for broadcast HbbTV applications. So for individual broadcasters rather than via platform op app. Because they would still need to have access to the accessibility settings somehow. But additionally, so I lost my thread. The op app still has this same problem the OPAP still needs to know what capabilities the TV has got. Well, there's two types of OPAP deployment. There's one where the OPAP does everything and completely replaces the TV's user interface, in which case it has to implement some additional extensions to do this. But in the case where it's an OPAP running on a TV device with its own operating system, then this problem will still exist, and there'll still have to be this bridge between the OPAP and the TV OS. So the OPAP could use the same mechanisms.
Thank you.
I hope that answered the question. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Last one, I don't know but what it means, iVision signing. What is iVision signing?
I think it's InVision signing.
InVision
so
signing, I think so.
Signer,
Yeah, it must be InVision.
Where the signer is doing the sign language in the lower corner of the video.
Okay, so that's just like a little smaller window showing the signing version,
yeah.
Explaining what you would normally be able to hear. Okay.
Yes.
This sums up the questions. So many thanks for you to participate in the Q&A, also for your great presentations. I have a few things to tell you, so stay with me for a moment. Of course, as I already said, there'll be a recording available from this webinar. There'll also be the PDF presentations available for download. You'll receive an email 24 hours from now, since you registered for this webinar, with all the links, and they'll also be made available on the HbbTV Association's website and social media channels. I have announcements to make regarding the next event, which is exactly in a week from today, same time, 3 in the afternoon European time, 2 o'clock British time. It's the Demo Live series, the first out of 3 events we have as add-on events for the upcoming HbbTV Symposium and Awards in Paris, where sponsors explain new products and services and give insights on the market developments. The first session is with Kineton, ERT, Sophia Digital, Viewed, and Smart DTV. You can register now on this dedicated website you see on the screen, and be there live in 1 week from today. And the next webinar is coming up as usual in the middle of the month. Next month is October. We have ADB2 and TA, the specification update. You've probably heard about it. And this is about targeted advertising solutions in set-top box market. You'll receive invitations for that pretty soon. As I already mentioned, the big event coming up in November 24th and 25th, is the HbbTV Symposium and Awards taking place. That's important as an in-person event in Paris at the Cité Internationale Universitaire, in a very central location near Porte d'Orléans. You'll also receive more information on this and how to register very shortly. As usual, if you like to suggest your own topics for the webinar series, please do so by email to webinar@hbbtv.org. The HbbTV Association can also be found on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Be sure to register there and subscribe to those channels for the latest updates. And one more thing, after we're gone, please leave this browser window open. There'll be a short survey coming up where you can rate this webinar, making sure that we offer the best service to you. Again, thank you for watching. Thanks for being with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Big thank you to all the presenters, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you in Paris.
See you in Paris, exactly.
Bye-bye.